Well, on today's show, we have Kim Walker Smith. Kim, thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you just came back from a trip to South Africa.
Yes.
Tell our viewers and our listeners about that trip.
It was incredible. Yeah, I just got home 2 days ago, actually. And this was my third time to South Africa. And I love going there. I love worshiping Jesus with the people there. They are very passionate. They love to worship. And their favorite song I think is Rooftops, which is an old
Yeah.
song for me. That's like throwing it
Hmm.
way back.
Yeah.
And that was the song every night when we did that. I looked out and it was like every hand was in the air and they were
Mm.
singing it so loud. I could hear them through my in-ears, like singing along with me. It was so loud. But when I said, "Hey, I'm going to do a new song. Can we teach you guys a new song?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "We're going to sing a song called Trample." And they went, "Whoa," like they just went ballistic. I thought, "Oh, okay." So they're like, they really love the older stuff, but they are in it with the new stuff too. So, and they sang along and it was awesome. So we had a really great time. And like I said, kind of some pleasant surprises there. I wasn't sure, the new music sometimes takes a little bit longer to reach the foreign countries, and not in this case. They were ready.
Well, I'll say not just in foreign countries, Kim, but we talked with Stephen Curtis Chapman a few months ago, and he recently came out with a new album himself. And, he's been in the business forever since,
Oh yeah.
For 800 years. And he, when he comes out with new music, when he does these interviews, they're like, "Man, we really like this new album, but we really like your old stuff." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Man, I'm trying to be relevant. I'm trying to write this new stuff because every artist should always say, 'Man, this is my best work yet,' when they come out with the
Hmm.
new album." And it's true. And then, he was like, all these interviews that I do, everyone wants to just talk about my old music. They don't want to talk about my new album. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it's a good problem. It really is,
yeah,
because it's because people associate those songs with special moments and special memories, and they're connected to good things. And so I think that's
sure.
probably why that happens, or like in my case, there was a girl who attended, and she commented on one of the photos. It was like, "Hey, night 2 in Johannesburg," and she commented that she was there and she loved it, and she said, "These are the songs of my childhood." And I could read
Mm,
that and be like, "Oh wow, well I feel old," but and I mean, I did feel a little bit old, but it was a compliment. Like she still came and she showed up. She loved all the new stuff. She loved the worship night. But she had this special connection of, yeah, this is what my mom played all the time, was Kim. And I
mm,
grew up listening to this, and how special that she's like still there and still worshiping Jesus. So,
yeah,
I mean, I totally get that sentiment of him expressing that and the frustration. But like I said, I think it is actually a positive
sure.
problem to have.
Yeah. Well, speaking of new music, you just released an amazing album, Kim. We love Trample. Every
Thank
song on there
you.
is so good. Do you mind telling our viewers and our listeners about this album?
Yeah. So, yeah, the album just came out just a few weeks ago. It's still pretty fresh. The album, as you said, is called Trample. The title track, Trample, is a song that, it's the only song on the record that I did not write. It was written for me actually by some good friends, good songwriter friends. And they actually wrote the song for me, a few years ago. And the funny thing is, at the time when they brought it to me and said, "Hey, we wrote this song for you. We just know you're going to love it. We think you'll want to sing it." And I did love it. But the problem is, at the time I was doing the Wild Heart album, which was my last full length record a few years ago. And it just didn't fit in the album. And I was like, well, I love this, but it just doesn't feel like the right time. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't fit in this album. But I said, typically when that happens, they might go and take the song to someone else and say, well, someone else want to sing this. And I was like, "You wrote this for me. Don't take it anywhere. Like, let's just sit on it for a minute and let's see what happens." And then when I started working on this project, I knew right away that this song was for this project. And then it became, the title track. And it fit perfectly. I was really excited about it. This album is a little bit different for me. Most of my records are recorded live, and this is a studio album, which is not typical for me, as most people who are familiar with my music would know. But I don't think it's a departure at all from who I am. And I think that all the people who know me, as far as been listening to my music for a long time, and maybe have heard my conversations and my different talking points and interviews on social media, all those things. I don't think any of this is any kind of departure. And I even, on one of the songs, As Long As I Have You, I decided, hey, I feel like this song needs a spontaneous moment in it. And I was like, can we do that in the studio? Like, can that happen? I don't know. And so I had the producer put a really big, just kind of blank section, just an instrumental section in the song. And when he first brought it to me, I said, no, it's not long enough. Make it longer. And he's like, I mean, that's really long, Kim. I said, I know, but we need space. We can chop it down if we need to, but we need space to kind of find the wind in the moment, the spontaneous moment. And I didn't even know if it'd work. I've never even attempted this, And so we get in there, and it's funny because it's almost as if I'm trying to lead into a moment, but I'm leading myself. There's only me in the room in this moment. And we captured a really special spontaneous moment in that song in there, which was really fun. I was kind of like, okay, so this is different. Like, we can do this. It's not the same as being in a room live with people, but it is possible. So anyways, there's, like I said, it's new. It's a little different for me, but it's not a departure, I think, for who I am.
Well, you have these, amazing songs on this album, and then you have a song like Mama. Now, the first time we heard this song, my wife was like, because every Mother's Day I always have her preach. And so she was like, okay, I have my message. And I was like, okay. And she centered it around your song Mama, and we played it for the congregation, and they were all like, yeah, like I was like, are we at a Jerry Springer taping or something? And I was like, everyone was like, get it, mamas. And so that is like an intense, like in your face, like, shut up, devil, shut up, woke, everything, And so tell us about that song.
Yeah. It was a little unexpected, even for me, I will say, but I am first and foremost a wife and a mother. Yep. It is the most sacred part of my life and my biggest roles. And I, like so many moms, have been experiencing some crazy stuff in this world. Yeah. It is an intense time to be raising children. Yeah. And I don't know that there is a generation like it. We are on the front lines. Those of us with young kids, we are on the front lines, and we cannot let our guard down for a single moment. And, we lived in California, which is kind of crazy. And we were like, we don't want to raise
our... It's getting crazier there.
Oh yeah. And my husband and I, we grew up in a tiny little farming community in Oregon, and we just didn't want to raise our kids there. And we wanted to raise our kids in more of the culture and the values that we grew up in. And, it's, I understand the argument, but what it comes down to is, we're not teaching our kids to hate anybody, but when it comes to certain topics, including sexuality, gender, all of that stuff, that is for the parents to decide and to talk about with their kids. We as parents have the incredible honor of setting the standard in our home of when we have those conversations and how those conversations go. And that is our job that I am not about to let anyone take from me. So, we homeschool our kids.
Same.
I do not trust the school systems. I don't trust any of that. And we had one experience after the other even little things like in California, we lived out in the country and on a farm, but when we drive into the city, just billboards with like half naked women on the billboards, and I've got little boys, and they're
Yeah.
looking up at that like, what am I looking at? It's a wild world we're living
Well,
in,
not just
and
that,
so
Kim, but I mean, we've seen billboards, and I've had to explain to he's 13 now. It's crazy to think, but a few years back, he saw a billboard of a man dressed up as a woman, and it was like promoting this
mhm.
TV show. And he's like, "Dad, what in the world?" And I was like, "Great, thank you,
Yeah,
billboard."
yes, yes. Well, and that's the other part. Like it, it can push conversations that we as parents are like, we didn't want to have this conversation right now. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, we have to prepare them for the world that they're living in, but we want to protect their innocence for as long as possible. Because every time you have to have those kind of big conversations, it's like a little piece of their innocence and
Mm-hmm.
childhood is gone. And it's just so sacred and special. And we want to preserve that for as long as possible. Like, yes, I have naive children and I am proud of that. Like, my kids didn't even know the word fat for a long time. They had never heard that word as any kind of negative anything. And they heard another kid call a man fat, said, "Oh, look at that fat man." And my kids were like, "What does that mean?" And
Mm,
I felt grieved that I had to explain to them that word in its negative connotation. That's not even a woke thing. That's just
right.
a negative thing. And it was sad to me that even came into their, until that point, my kids looked at everyone and never gave a second thought to the shape of people. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it was just sad. So yeah, I had a really bad experience in California, and it just pushed me over the edge. And this song just came to me one day. Like I was driving my car and I'm thinking about these experiences, and I'm feeling the frustration, and I'm talking to the Lord about it. Like, God, it's hard being a mother in this world. And I'm kind of angry, and it feels like a righteous anger that, this stuff is just, it feels like an attack on my family, an attack on my kids, an attack on me as a mother. And all of a sudden the melody and these words just came to me. And I never have written a song on my own. I always get in a room with friends and we write together.
Sure.
And this chorus came to me, "Back off my babies, you can't replace me." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is good." And I grabbed my phone while I'm driving, and I'm singing it into my phone to record it so I don't forget it. And then I took it to a couple other songwriting mamas and I said, "This is not normal. This is not a worship song, but I feel this. Like, do you want to help me finish it?" And they were like, yes. And we did. So it's kind of, I know it's maybe strange to some having this on a worship album, but this is who I am. And I said, when it came out, I said, at the end of the day, bottom line, I'm 42 years old. I've been doing this a long time. I don't got to explain it to anybody.
Right.
I'm putting it on there, and it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah. Brandon Lake told us a few weeks ago he did that song "Count 'Em," and everyone was so upset that he did this rock song on a worship album. He's like, and people were calling him a Satanist and stuff. And he's like, dude, it literally says, "You are the Lord, holy." And he's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I'm being satanic on this or whatever. So
hmm
I'm sure you have haters, Kim, but just ignore them. But
Yeah, yeah. There is, but for the most part, it's I mean, people love it. Kids
oh
love
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Moms love it. Do you know how many kids? I keep hearing so many stories. Moms saying every time we get in the car, "This is what my kid wants to listen to," which is
yeah,
so funny. I wasn't expecting that, and it has actually brought a lot of non-Christians over to
sure,
my music. We
yeah,
have been getting a lot of comments, a lot of private messages of people who are not Christians, but they heard Mama and they loved it so much, and then they're finding all my other music and they're asking us about it, which is another thing. I knew that would happen. And
yeah,
I'm happy for that. Like,
yeah,
I'm not just trying to reach the church people, I'm trying to
sure.
reach the lost as well. So this is just another tool for that. And it's great.
Yeah, Plugged In has become a really good friend of ours because Every
Yes.
time our kids want to see a movie, I'm like, all right, let's go to Plugged In, and we'll
Oh
go
yeah.
on
I
there. And then
love
there'll be
that.
one thing in there, and I'm like, really? Why? Like,
Yep.
so yeah,
Yeah.
we go to Plugged In a lot.
God bless them. I
Yeah.
love that they are so detailed. I mean, they'll tell you, this
Everything.
character burped 3 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if burping is offensive to you, like, don't go see it. Like,
This cartoon
it's
said poop.
yes, yes. I mean, they tell you everything, and I
Yeah.
love that. As a parent, it is so helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is
Yeah.
a fan based podcast. And so we have listeners write in and give us questions for artists. And we had a fan of yours, Nikki from New Hampshire, and she
Awesome.
loves the song on your new album called Boxes. And she also says she wants to know the story behind that song, but also her second favorite of yours is Still Believe.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, I love Still Believe. That's one of my favorites. And it's funny, that was one that really upset a lot of people. You wouldn't think. I just remember this man one time, he commented, I had said something about the song on social media, and he commented and he goes, well, I still believe that this is a terrible song and a terrible song title. And he was frustrated at that statement, that I still believe, like, almost like he didn't appreciate that your faith would come into question in any way. And I thought,
So he's perfect.
well, that's exactly what I thought. I said, well, here we have it, folks. We have found the one and only perfect Christian in this whole world. He has never wrestled with his faith. He has
Right.
never struggled. He has never had to tell himself, I'm still going to choose to believe,
He
And
might
it's
be able to
funny.
walk on water.
He might. I mean, really extra special. I really should have got his number, But yeah, and that song, I wrote that, like, in my own struggle of my stepfather was dying of Parkinson's disease,
Mm.
and asking God to heal him, and he wasn't being healed, and he didn't get healed. He died, and that I was processing my own stuff. And the other part of that song was, people didn't like that it has the word addict in it, and it says he sets the addict free. And do you know how many addicts have come to me over the years and said how much that song means to them, because it says that in there? It says specifically, it mentions them, and they identify with that. He is the one who sets the addict free. People who have had major struggles with addiction, when they're on the other side and walking that out, they still refer to themselves as addicts.
Right.
They may be walking in freedom and doing well, but they always kind of know they're prone to this, and they still will say that this is who they are in their struggle. And it meant so much to them to have that in the song. But anyways, she asked about Boxes.
Yeah.
So the story behind that song, which I love, by the way, too. I love this song so much. I love singing it. And I also love that it starts with the bass line, because it's just so different. It's just, I just love it so much. And my bass player was like stoked. He's like, finally, there's a song where I get to, like, I'm the
Show
star. I get to kick it off, But this song was written as my declaration of, I am set free from those boxes. Like, I have felt bound to boxes for so long. The boxes that I put myself in, where I stay, where it's comfortable, when I'm scared to step out into the new, or scared to trust Jesus. I'm scared to take that next step. I feel him, when we moved from California, and I felt him telling me to leave, and I was terrified. Like, I would be leaving a ministry I've been with over 20 years. Like, everyone says I'm insane. And I got to be honest, I kind of think I am too. Like, I get why they're saying that. It seems crazy, and scared to, just step into something new. And then also, I felt like for years, people put me in boxes, like, no, Kim, just shut up and sing. We don't want you to do this, or we don't want you to talk about that, or, oh, don't bring that up, or no, don't go do this. And, just stay within that little box. And I I I've spent the last few years here in Montana. I feel like God led me out into the wilderness for my benefit. Like, I feel like I've just been getting set free of those boxes, and that's what that song is about. And in that process, also learning that God also does not want to be kept in a box. And so often we try to do that. We try to fit him into our theology, and he is outside of all of that. And so I wanted an anthem that reminds me and declares like I am free of those boxes. I'm not going back in, and I'm also working to not try to put God in a box in my own life.
Yeah. Well, with our first time guests, we like to do a thing called favorite things. Our listeners and viewers love it. Get to know you. And so I'm just going to give you a word and you give me a favorite thing category.
All right.
All right. What is your favorite food?
Mexican food by far. And I'm dying here in Montana because there's like no Mexicans here. Every time I find a Mexican,
Taco
I'm like,
Bell.
Yes, I'm like, oh, is there food around here? Is there good Mexican food? You know, California, obviously, there's tons.
Oh, yeah.
Here, we're still working on it.
Yeah. Probably a lot of, moose? I don't even know what kind of animals are in Montana.
Yes, you know, actually, a really popular food here is elk stew.
Elks.
Yeah. So, I mean, we eat, there's more cows than people here. So we eat a ton of steak and then a lot of wild game. So,
yeah.
But I want tacos.
There you go. Well, I guess when you travel, you can go eat the Mexican
Yes,
food,
and so. I do. Yep.
Mm-hmm. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, gosh. Well, probably Interstellar.
Oh, yeah.
I love that movie. I'm kind of a nerd, and I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is probably my favorite category of movies. All my kids are Star Wars fans, although, you know, not currently, but all the old stuff we love.
Yeah.
But yeah, Interstellar, I actually saw it in the movie theater when it came out, and I went into labor while I was in the movie theater. And I think it, you know, that bass and the music is so, the whole room was like vibrating, and I went into labor and I was sitting there having all these contractions, and I did not want to miss the end of the movie. And so I didn't tell my husband. I kept it a secret, and I was just breathing through all the contractions because I wanted to see the end of the movie. Made it to the end, then told my husband. We got out of there. I said, hey, I'm in labor, so we need to go. We need to go. I'm having a baby. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah. And they're getting closer, but I just didn't want to miss the end of the movie. It's
I'm
so
only 9
good.
centimeters. So.
Yeah, right. we got a couple minutes still. We can make it.
Is there a show that you like to watch? Favorite show?
Okay, well, this is funny, but it's just a really sweet, I think, kind of family show. It's called Heartland.
Yeah.
And it's about a girl with horses. And I have a phobia of horses. And I watch the show, and almost every episode makes me cry. I don't know why. And I watch her with these horses, like rehabilitating them. There's always, you know, some dramatic something that happens, and there's stuff in the plot that she's working with the horses like all the time. And I always think like, gosh, is this real? Could she help me? I need to get over my phobia of horses. Like, I need some healing. I think I watch it because I'm like hoping I'll get some sort of, you know, horse healing in watching the show. I don't know, but I love it.
It reminds me of that show. I don't know if back in the 90s, Maury Povich, he used to have these people come out their phobias of the horses is different, but he had people, and I wonder if it was staged, but he had people that were afraid of broccoli and olives and different weird things like that. So he would bring out olives and they would freak out.
Oh my gosh.
This is crazy.
Yeah, well, that's me around horses. I'm working on it. I'm in Montana. I mean, it's not a good place to have a horse phobia. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite musical artist of all time?
Oh, well, gosh. I mean, I would say it was probably always Whitney Houston, and I grew up listening to her, and I mean, always loved her. I mean, who can sing like her? You know, nobody. Right. But you know what? I really love Adele. I mean,
you kind of favor her. You're the voice.
I mean, she has a good range. She can get really low. I like that raspy. I have a raspy voice. I mean, I love it. I love her, the style, the different things that she does with her voice. She's incredible.
Yeah. That'd be cool. She got saved and started singing with everyone.
I mean, I would be first in line. Like, come on, girl, let's do a duet.
Do you have a favorite ice cream flavor?
um, you know, probably just chocolate. I'm pretty basic, but
Yeah,
I do love chocolate, like especially if it has like brownie chunks in it. Oh man, like that will get me real excited.
you
Chocolate
like
with
the
the
stuff
brownie
in it.
chunks. Yeah, I don't really like, like nuts in it or stuff like
Yeah.
that, but like brownie or like chocolate fudge in it, like just chocolate
Hmm.
on chocolate. That's kind of my go-to there. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a favorite podcast that you listen to?
Blurry Creatures. I love Blurry
We knew we
Creatures.
liked you for a reason.
Do you know this podcast?
Oh yeah, Todd
Oh my
Smith from
gosh.
Selah got us hooked to it. And at
Yes.
first we were like, dude, that just sounds weird. And he's like, no, the Nephilim. And he started going on and on. Well, my brothers bought the Book of Enoch the other day. And so
Uh-huh.
like we tried to go to the Blurry Con and it sold out. And apparently in the CCM world, there's a whole group of people, including yourself now,
Yep. There
that
is. I'm
love.
familiar. I'm familiar with the group. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it. I actually found them in 2020. Like they were still pretty new. And I started listening to them because I had heard it was a Bigfoot podcast. Well,
sure.
I grew up in Oregon and
Yeah,
Bigfoot is like commonplace in Oregon. Like every Oregonian believes in Bigfoot, and every Oregonian either has their own story or knows a person who has a story.
yeah,
And so I was kind of excited, like, 2020, all of us were looking for something to do, to listen to watch. Excuse me. So I found their podcast and I'm listening to like, Bigfoot stuff. But then one day they have someone on who starts talking about Genesis 6 and the Nephilim. And I went, wait, what? And I'm,
yeah.
I'm listening to this. I'm sitting at home just going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And just my mind was like racing. Like I had never considered or thought about it or dug into that. And it's funny because you can hear, like, if you are a new listener and you go back to the beginning and listen from the beginning, you hear them go, wow, well, this took a turn that we were not expecting. We thought we were going to be like a Bigfoot podcast,
Right,
and
right,
here
right.
we are, something totally different. Like,
Yeah.
and I was kind of there in that with them, like going, wait, where is this going? What? Yeah. Anyway, that's my favorite. I love
Yeah.
them.
This has been a while ago, but I was listening. We were driving from Kentucky back here, and I was listening to the episode about mermaids, and my wife was asleep in the passenger seat. I'm just like into it listening, and I'm listening to the clips are playing, and my wife wakes up and she just hears these mermaid sounds. She's like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, "Mermaids, be quiet. Hang on a second."
Yeah.
And I'm like so in tune to it. And she's like,
I know.
"Jacob, that is silly." I'm like, "No, they're real. Hush."
Yeah. It's so funny. Every now and then there'll be someone on that I'm listening going, okay,
Yeah.
this is kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, I love the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not offended at people's wild stories, and they're so convinced like this is real, this happened to them. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, but you know what? I love listening. So
Well, the alien stuff's
by
pretty
all means,
interesting, and all the stuff that keeps coming out. It's like,
I mean,
yeah,
being declassified, it's some wild times we're living in. I'm like, yes, the red heifers. I was like, the funny thing is, I had been watching that and knew about that before they did the podcast about the red heifers. And I was trying to tell some of my friends, like, listen, when you read Revelation, and I mean, we're getting real close to that temple being built. And look, they just brought the red heifers over to Israel. And my friends are like, what are you talking about, Kim? And then they did the
what kind of
podcast
brownies
about
are
the
you
red.
eating in your ice cream?
Yeah, exactly. And then they did the podcast about the red heifers, and I just sent it to my friends, like,
Yeah,
listen to this, and you'll understand what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a great podcast for sure.
Mhm.
All right, so this is the most controversial question you'll probably be asked. But
All
is
right.
it sloppy wet kiss or unforeseen kiss?
Ah, it is sloppy wet kiss. I will always sing it that way. I do not like unforeseen kiss. I'm going to be real honest right now. It bothers me because the lyric right before that is heaven meets earth. And then it got changed to like an unforeseen kiss. And
For
I feel
radio.
like, I'm sorry, did you not read your Bible? Heaven meets earth. This is what the whole Bible is about. It is not unforeseen. It is not, oh, shocking. It's not that way. If you read your Bible and you're a Christian, you know that this is how it is and that it's happening. So I don't like it. It's not
I
right.
think I've hit a nerve.
I've dealt with this for so many years. The funny thing
Thanks, Crowder.
yeah, thanks a lot, Crowder. The funny thing is, after he came out with that, and I'm good friends with John Mark, so I knew the whole story. I knew it was happening. I knew all that before it came out. So his version comes out. Of course, it's radio and it's big. He's got this whole other fan base, and people, it went big. They loved this song. They loved his version of it. So when people would go to like Google or YouTube and just put in How He Loves, it was not Crowder's video that popped up. It was mine.
Yeah.
That was the biggest one. And so it was the first video that came up. So people, they went berserk. They were calling me a pervert. They were saying, how dare you change Crowder's song? How dare you change the lyrics? This is perverted. They were saying we had to turn off all the commenting and delete all the comments because it was so bad. Nobody bothered to look at the timestamp and to see that video had been made years before Crowder had done it. Nobody looked at that. Nobody considered that. They just thought I was some evil, psychotic pervert who changed poor Crowder's song to something else.
I love it.
We
were told by a credible source when Crowder sings it live, he basically turns the mic to the audience and they could say whatever they want right there.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he even sings that anymore, like that part. He just lets the audience decide what it is. So
I mean, my understanding was that not that he didn't like the lyric and that he wanted to change it, but that he understood his audience and that they would want it different.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it. Like, I get it. I think he could have come up with something better, but I get it.
Yeah. Well, Kim, what is next for you and how can our viewers and listeners keep up with you?
They can keep up with me on all the social media platforms. And one of the best ways to keep up with me is I started this thing a while ago where I call it Thoughts on Thursday. And I just make a video I just share just my thoughts, just different things I'm thinking about, some hard conversations I want to have, and bringing people into it, kind of bringing people into my world a little bit, pretty vulnerable. So I've been putting those up on all the social channels, Facebook, Instagram, all of that. And then it's also on YouTube. And on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and you can also listen to the Thoughts on Thursdays. Like if you want to just listen and actually watch the video, it's kind of like a podcast. It's not in a podcast format, but you can listen to it as if it is a podcast, which is preferable for some people, which is great. And what's next is, we're heading into summer here. And so I'm planning on being home for most of this summer. This is my family time. We do a lot of camping and a lot of hiking. We are outdoor people. And so I treasure this time with my kids. And then in the fall, in September, I hit the ground running with homeschool and on the road. And we've got a U.S. tour that we'll be announcing for the fall here pretty soon. So looking forward to that.
You should do a podcast on finding good Mexican food in Montana.
You know what? It would be the podcast that would not have an ending because I don't know that there is. It would be a constant search. Here I am today in the town of Libby. It's like 100 people. I don't know. And I'm still looking for a Mexican and there's nobody.
Well, Kim, you have one of the best Christmas albums out there. And are you going to be doing any more Christmas music?
I was just thinking about that. I am not really someone I'm not just listening to myself all the time, but my Christmas album is in my Christmas rotation.
I love it.
Love that album.
Carol the Bells, your version. Oh my gosh.
My producer, Jeremy, he did such an incredible job with that album. And I expressed my desire and kind of how I wanted it to sound and be, and he just captured it perfectly. I love that album. But this last Christmas, we actually started having some conversations about it. So my bass player and my guitar player followed me to Montana. They moved their families here. So we're all here together in Montana. And we had a Christmas party all together. And we decided to play some live music for the Christmas party. And I added some songs that are not on the album or anything. And they were like, you know what, Kim? We should do another Christmas record. I mean, there's still a lot of Christmas songs that we haven't done. And I was like, I think it probably is time for that. So I'm actually thinking
It's time.
about that. Yeah, like doing another one. But I honestly feel like the one I did, it sets a high bar for me personally. So I feel
Yeah.
like unless I feel confident that I can meet that high bar, I don't know if I would want to try to tackle it because I just love it so much. It's so good. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. But
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
definitely thinking
you
about
could
that.
do, I mean, there's still more traditional songs you didn't cover, but you could do more like 80s and 90s Christmas songs that came out, you
Uh-huh.
know? I mean, because
Yep.
there's so many good ones. So,
Yes. Yep.
but
I
well, to
agree.
wrap up, I'd like to see if you'd be willing to share something that God's been doing in your life recently that would help build our viewers and listeners' faith.
Oh man, I really like to say, none of us, except that one guy, are perfect, but none
Yeah.
of us are perfect. And I I want to be always growing and on a path to greater freedom. And I want to I do my best to try to like look honestly at my life and look at, where do I need to stretch? Where do I need to grow? And I feel like this season that I have been in has just been such a really sweet but trying season of really trusting God, and trusting Him in ways that maybe I have not really had to before. So, I moved and I left Jesus culture, and I'm not with any record labels. I did this music on my own, like releasing as an independent artist. Even though that's kind of a weird word because in my mind I'm just worship leader, but yes, artist. Um, and it's just required such an incredible trust in Jesus, like trusting He is saying, do this, move forward, take a step, jump out there. And I have really felt in this season that it's like He's asking me to jump, and I'm standing on what feels like a cliff, but I'm like in a fog, like a cloud, like I can't see anything. I can't see what's ahead. Like I feel like I'm maybe on a cliff and I'm going to leap out into the unknown, or maybe I'm not. I don't even know what's there or what's out there. And He's just asking me to just really trust Him. And it has really, really, really tested my faith in this way. And every time I have jumped out there, He has just met me in the sweetest way, and sometimes really surprising, like, wow, I did not see that coming. You provided, and you provided from a way that I had no idea that was even there. And you made a way on a path that I had no idea that path was there or available to me. And so yeah, I don't know. I think I would just encourage people, don't get complacent and don't get too comfortable. And if you look around and you're like, I have been real comfortable and real complacent for a while, ask the Lord, where can I be challenged, and where can I trust you more? Is there somewhere in my life where I haven't been trusting? Maybe He's been speaking and haven't really been paying attention. And I think that's just part of our faith as Christ followers, that we do make those leaps of faith, stepping out of the boat and onto the water and trusting Jesus.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with me. Trample is out now. Please download it, support Kim's ministry. Is this on vinyl?
We are working on that. I think we're going to do a limited run with the vinyl. We
Sure.
want the vinyl. So, but it's kind of expensive to do, and there's like kind of a niche group of people that want it, and so we're going to do like a limited run with the vinyl, and we'll
Yeah.
announce that soon. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.